You are tuned into Jazz Notes. I'm your host, Rene Jaime Gonzalez. Jazz Notes, contributing to the story of jazz every Monday night from 8 to 9 p.m. right here on KRTU San Antonio. Jazz 91.7 KRTU FM, Kasim by Ted Curson, originally released overseas on Fontana Records and reissued to the States on Arista Records. A North African sound on this tune by Ted Curson. And we started off tonight's show with a Duke Pearson composition we featured on the show before, kind of riffing on last week's theme of spiritual jazz, this time with Donald Byrd on trumpet, Cristo Redentor on Blue Note Records. Shoutouts to JC Pagan, host of the Blue Note Hour every Monday night from 7 to 8 p.m., celebrating 10 years of his show right here on KRTU. Welcome to the program, everyone. We have a special show for you tonight. Our featured guests in the studio, our first guests in the studio here on Jazz Notes, respected jazz musicians out on the local scene, holding down residencies at local venues here in town, playing live out in the inner city and beyond. Tony Romero joins us on the trumpet and Daniel Miller on guitar. Guys, thanks for taking the time out to join us on Jazz Notes.
Thank you for having us.
Likewise, thank you.
All right, so you guys, here on Jazz Notes, we contribute to the story of jazz by giving our listeners a fuller and richer sense of the story of the music, the musicians, the record labels, the producers. and so much more. And I know our listeners would like to hear a little bit about your background and your musical origins and kind of where you're at today. So, Tony, I've heard you play at various venues and countless gigs here in town with local and out-of-town players as well. Originally from Chicago, you're doing your thing here in San Antonio. Talk to us a little bit about how you got started in music and how you make music happen here today in this city.
Awesome. Well, I can definitely humbly say that I've always felt a connection with music. So from the beginning, I think that I had an internal connection, and I knew that I was going to do something with it in my life. But I got two specific stories that are my earliest memories of being a musician. One was my father was at the local, I think in Chicago, they were called Ventures at the time. They're, like HEBs and whatnot, or Target. And he would let my mom do the shopping, and he took me to the toy aisle while he was reading a magazine. And he later in life told me that he saw me figuring out Mary Had a Little Lamb on one of those little Fisher-Price Bell toys that they used to have. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I vaguely remember that as well. But I didn't start, band. I did band like at any other, elementary school. And I used to have a crush on this girl named Rosina. And when the band director came in to ask and recruit the students for the band, I noticed she raised her hand. And then I went ahead and raised my hand as well, leading me into the basement where everyone was to choose their instrument. She chose the flute, and I chose the French horn. The French horn was too expensive. My dad was like, no way, I'm not buying you this thing.
Too many valves, right?
And he just said, play the trumpet. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever works. And I've been doing it ever since.
Wow, dig it. Yeah, those are some stories right there. So it sounds like you got your musical training from Fisher-Price Toys. Is that correct? Can we put that on there?
Yeah.
And a romantic as well. Well, thank you for the stories, Tony. Definitely contributing to the story here in San Antonio. So, Daniel, we've talked, and you studied music at the University of Incarnate Word. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. All right. But I think I and the listeners would like to know, did you start music before then, or did you discover this passion during your studies? Tell us about it.
So, first off, the thing that I always like to say is that my family is a country and bluegrass band. And so ever since I was a little kid, they were doing that since the 60s. And so I kind of came into that sort of culture with my grandfather being a master fiddle player and my uncle being the same, my mom being a great singer and guitarist, my Nana being a great singer. I was just brought up around this language of music. And then I just kind of did what some of the other musicians around here would say got them into it. Like, I was in band, I played saxophone, but it wasn't until 8th grade that I got into playing guitar. And at first I was just strumming and playing country tunes, but then when I got into high school, I started playing some rock, started playing some jazz, and things kind of went from there.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. So you're originally from San Antonio? You and your family from San Antonio, Texas?
Yes.
Okay, great. If you guys ever get a chance to check out Daniel on the scene, I mean, he's the real deal in his style of presentation, from red crush velvet shirts to bell-bottom jeans, and you're up there with your guitar, and the music is certainly doing the talking for you. Well, I think that's a good place to start, as any. So with that said, let's go ahead and get back to the music. Daniel, this next one's going out to you here. Master soloist on jazz guitar, Grant Green, doing original composition. This one's called Green with Envy, and you're hearing all this on Jazz Notes. You are tuned into Jazz 91.7 FM KRTU, and this is Kenny Dorham with Hill's Edge. Jazz 91.7 KRTU FM. Speeding right through with Hill's Edge by Kenny Dorham on trumpet, live at the Cafe Bohemia from the album Roundabout Midnight on Blue Note Records, with Bobby Timmons on the piano, Kenny Burrell on the guitar. Bobby Timmons, an artist we featured here on Jazz Notes in the past month, and we started off that set of music with Green with Envy by Grant Green on jazz guitar. Both selections produced at Blue Note Records. That Grant Green number really stretching out on that one for some live play. So if you're just now joining in, we're here on Jazz Notes. We have featured guests in the studio here at KRTU, local musicians, soloists, and instrumentalists in their own right, Tony Romero and Daniel Miller. Guys, thanks for appearing on the show tonight.
Thank you for having us.
There we go. All right. So we started off with a spiritual sound and then transitioned into bop. So what do you guys think about what we've been playing tonight on the show so far?
Daniel?
I dig it.
I do too, of course.
Yeah, there's a good amount of stuff that's like not your grandpa's jazz, but then also some stuff that is. So, and all that stuff is burning, which is
and
nice.
they're grooving, yeah.
Yeah.
Dig it. All right. I might make that my new tagline. Jazz Notes on KRTU, not your grandpa's jazz. Thanks for that one, Daniel. So speaking of which, Daniel, I'd like to focus on your playing. So we heard Grant Green, master of the jazz guitar. We were talking a little bit during the break. I mean, his one-line solos sound comparable to a horn. You can play those long solo lines as like we heard on the Grant Green record, but also maintain a balance of filling out the space with chords as well. So describe, if you can, what goes into crafting your solos and a little bit about your sound.
One thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is the ability to be yourself and play yourself in whatever situation that you get put into. And in the Spiders, we play a lot of different types of jazz, but like I mentioned to you before the interview started, I play in a bunch of different kinds of bands. And so the style that I've been trying to cultivate for myself is one that you can hear all of the influences, you can hear the country, you can hear the rock, you can hear the jazz, and all these pieces of vocabulary that I've cultivated, I can put in the right place in either of those styles and always be playing myself and not somebody else. So that's kind of where I'm trying to get right now. And so I listen to people like Bill Frisell who do that sort of thing so well. And the point is just taking all of your influences and being able to figure out what works where is kind of my approach for the moment.
Yeah, so it's not so much like I'm Daniel Miller and I'm here playing jazz guitar. It's I'm Daniel Miller and here's my sound.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and for those of you who... Or both, right?
Truth.
Yeah. And for those of you who haven't seen or listened to Daniel Miller out on the scene, you definitely get this experience from him when he's playing up on stage, very much into the music and very much passionate. So thanks for giving us some background there. So Tony, I'd like to take it over to you. As you've heard in the music tonight, we switched it up from spiritual to bop and hoping to go back at some point. And I've heard the same in your playing as well. So going into each gig, do you have an idea of how you want your sound to play for the night, or does it come to you in the moment? Tell us a little bit about your thought process, if any, on the bandstand.
I think that through the course of us getting older or trying to figure ourselves out, figuring out our instruments or our vocabulary through the instrument, I think for me personally, it just got to a point where whatever I got going on in my life is basically going to direct what is going to come out of my horn and how I'm probably going to behave for the evening. Like Daniel was saying, and I'm sorry to interrupt him, but there's a lot of growth in our playing, and we're both, significantly young players in the lineage of jazz, musicians or legends or whatever you want to call it. So I think there's definitely a lot to accomplish in life before it's I don't know how to express, the way we express ourselves, it's improvising, so we improvise through life. We have to kind of just go with the punches. And I think that art form in itself is what's important to me in my playing, what's going to be improvised. Nothing's planned, not even what we play. There's no set list. We're ready to go, the drop of a hat, and we are all team players. So it's a pleasure playing with guys that can back you up like that. There's no room for even thinking about error. We're going. That's it. And we're winning. So we're kind of a circle of winners as well, like Lions. These guys are all pack of wolves. I don't know, bunch of crazy dudes doing what's supposed to be done, and I think that's awesome.
Dig it. Yeah. So if I can quote from Ken Burns' jazz documentary, from struggle to accomplishment, a jazz musician is responsible for providing a masterpiece by midnight. And so it might be a struggle to get there. You might be feeling it right off the bat. So Daniel mentioned, obviously you guys in the Spiders Jazz. Tony, that's a group that you've led, correct?
Yes.
So when you guys came together with your newest iteration, like the Spiders, which I'd like to go ahead and say is kind of functioning like Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, you know, you being Art Blakey and leading the group, and you got the Jazz Messengers behind you. So when you came together as your newest group, did you guys have to work together to bring the chemistry, or did it kind of come together for you naturally through your playing?
I'll go first, and I'll make it brief because I definitely want to hear Daniel's side of the story. But Daniel was definitely a lot younger, and he as they say nowadays, down for the cause. So it was really simple. It just meshed well. Really, the chemistry was pretty good. We've never had any issues. We know we play our role. We do what we do, and we definitely have a lot of fun. I have a great time playing with this guy. So
yeah, it definitely comes through in your playing.
So I guess I want to speak to the iteration of the Spiders that we have like right now and that we've had for the past 6 months, which is Tony on trumpet, Kevin Neighbors on tenor sax, myself on guitar, John Bordini on the upright and electric bass, and Simon Nicholson on the drums. So with that iteration of the Spiders, I think one of our strengths as in any band is just the way that we can interact with each other. Like I feel very, very comfortable when I'm going to a gig with these cats. And I've been in some situations where like I'd get back spasms because I didn't want to go to a gig. And I think just we've been together for so long that some of these things that you hear these master cats doing in these recordings, we can pull off now because we've just spent so much time playing together and really not only spend a lot of time playing together, but dig what each other has to bring to the table. And that is something that is very important to me, and I'm sure is important to everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say it again, it comes through in your playing, no matter what venue you guys are at. We can hear, again, the spiritual, experimental sort of sound, as well as the bop, and you guys are just as tight in your delivery. So Tony, speaking about you leading a group, you've been working on some recording lately, is that correct?
We just went into the studio last week and recorded our San Antonio Sunrise project, which began as an improvised session at the Pipe Corner. And I would say, I think it's safe to say that it started at the Pipe Corner. I wasn't feeling it that day, didn't want to play any jazz standards. And I turned to these guys and I said, you know what, I don't want to play any of that stuff. Let's just make it all up. And we put ourselves to the test and played 3 sets as if though we had written the music years ago, and it was great. And everyone, I mean, it wasn't great like everyone was like, oh my God, that was so awesome. But it was a successful night, and we felt like we did our job. And that kind of served as a catalyst for us to continue to do it live. So whatever amount of gigs came after that, I just said, here we go, let's just do it again, improvise. And long story short, the music to that record kind of just started coming together, the sound, the feel, and we went into the studio last week and recorded it. So it was pretty cool. We were excited for that release. And I recorded one a couple of years back. It's called Mad Wolf by Tony Romero. And that was definitely the first improvised project. We recorded about an hour, completely improvised with an instrument called a handpan, bass, and Claire Rose on drums. He's also an avant-garde drummer. And so we just continue doing this around town, trying to earn our stripes with the improvised art form.
All right, so speaking of which, I had a chance to dig through the system, and I brought up that Mad Wolf.
Nice.
So let's go ahead and give our listeners a sample from it. Here's Tony Romero on the trumpet with Mad Wolf. Jazz 91.7 KRTU FM. We just heard Mad Wolf by Tony Romero here in the studio on Jazz Notes. We have Tony Romero on trumpet here with us live. Tony, tell us a little bit about the Mad Wolf.
So basically what we did was we scheduled a recording session, and this is a true story. No one showed up that was supposed to be on this recording session. So Claire and Lawson were available and willing to come out, called them up. I think we recorded like at noon, so it was an early thing. And I just said, let's just do it. And the sound is not swing. So again, when it's improvised, there's a lot of different definitions for improvised music. It can be world music. I hate labels because you got avant-garde, you have Ornette Coleman, you got a lot of different types of people that, basically displayed their improvisational skills. But again, rolling with the punches and life, no one showed up to the session. I ended up getting these cats to do it. We went in there, recorded for an hour straight. We didn't edit anything. And at the end of the experience, I remember we were all sitting around on the couches, and we all looked like we just went to battle and won it. It was pretty cool. So we also felt that day that we accomplished our goal. And I continue to do it with all of the musicians that we play with. We're doing it actually tonight in about 10 minutes. If you want to meet us over at Brick at Blue Star Arts Complex, it'll be myself, Daniel Miller, and John Bordini as a trio, doing some more improvised stylings. And it's been our latest endeavor in challenging our musical skills.
Dig it. There you have it, the story of Mad Wolf here on Jazz Notes. And you can catch them out in the scene. Want to come back to that. But right now, let's take a break back to the music, kind of following along the same lines of what we just heard right now. This one by fellow trumpeter, recorded for the Blue Note record label, Ambrose Akinmusir in 2011. This one's called Henya, and you're hearing all this on Jazz Notes. Jazz 91.7 KRTU FM, the mellow and brooding sounds of Ambrose Akinmusir on the trumpet, doing his tune Henya for Blue Note Records. As we bring our show to a close, we want to thank our featured guests, our first guests here on Jazz Notes. If you're listening out there online or on air, you are witnessing jazz history right here in San Antonio, talking about the local scene and these musicians sound. Tony, Daniel, thanks guys for stopping by.
Thank you, Renee. Appreciate it.
I very much enjoyed carefully curating tonight's selection for you all, programmed tailored to your sound a bit and what our listeners can expect when digging you out in the local scene. So tell us, how can our listeners keep in touch? Where can we follow your music, whether online or out in the community?
Well, we're definitely on social media at Tony Romero's The Spiders on Facebook, and you can follow me on Instagram, Tony Romero 11.
And Daniel Miller 1997.
And basically, we have a residency at On the Bend over on the Riverwalk. It used to be the Jim Cullum's Jazz Landing. Now it's a pretty shabby New Orleans-style oyster bar. And we are there every Sunday, but we're there every other full weekend. In particular, this weekend, Friday and Saturday, from 7:30 to 11:30, and Sunday from 3 to 7.
Dig it. And also here, we heard tonight original music from Tony and his group called Mad Wolf. Tony, thanks again for allowing us to go ahead and play that on air.
Thank you, guys. And I definitely hope to see everyone out over at Brick. We will be hosting a short residency through the end of July, and it'll be between 9 p.m. and midnight. And that's where we're going to definitely stretch our legs and do some cool stuff.
All right, so we got one more track before we head out. Any last shout-outs you guys want to give at all at this time?
Definitely to all of the jazz community out there, everyone that supports what we're doing, and all of the local musicians that are definitely on board with expanding and progressing their musical skills. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thank you to everybody who just comes out and gives so much support to the Spiders and all the groups that we play with, and it's a pleasure to do all of this with all of you.
All right, there you have it, as heard here on Jazz Notes. Thank you again, fellas, for taking the time. Looking forward to checking you guys out tonight at Brick at Blue Star. Stay tuned. Up next, we have Sandy spinning the free jazz hour from 9 to 10 p.m. You get one more tune from me to close out this show. And since we're talking about local artists and local venues, what better than to feature original music from the jazz scene? Yet again, Brent, a.k.a. Dot Watkins, with his album Swinging from San Antonio, this one titled Renewal. And you're hearing all this on your home for San Antonio, your home for jazz in San Antonio, KRTU, and we will catch you all next week.